I found out I was pregnant again, 16 weeks after giving birth, and what crushed me wasn't the shock of the test. It was the realization that my mother-in-law had orchestrated the whole thing. She didn't just hope for a grandson. She engineered one. My name's Brooke. I'm 21, and my husband Dylan is 24. We just had our first baby, a beautiful girl named Ivy. She came into this world 8 pounds, red-faced and perfect. But when Dylan's parents walked into that hospital room, they looked at her like she was broken. "Ivy?" his mother gasped. "Not Ian? It's a girl?" Then she turned to Dylan and hissed under her breath, "We'll need to try again soon. You have to carry on the bloodline, or it dies with you." I laughed, awkwardly. Thought she was kidding. She wasn't. The next few weeks were weird, to say the least. Every time she visited, she'd drop hints about boys being blessings, about how Dylan needed to step up, about how 2 under 2 was the new thing. We shrugged it off. Dylan and I had agreed, no more kids for a while. I was still healing. Physically, mentally, emotionally. We were using condoms religiously. Couldn't get on the pill because of some insurance mess with my OB going on leave. Then came that night. Dylan handed me a glass of sangria after Ivy finally went down, and the moment it touched my lips, I froze. I can't explain it. Just this gut-deep panic, like something was wrong. I told him, "Get a test." He laughed. Then he saw my face and got serious. An hour later, I was staring at 2 lines on a plastic stick. Pregnant. Again. We double-checked the next morning with a digital test. 6 weeks. The doctor told me later. Based on your last period. The math didn't add up. We'd been careful. Extremely careful. I told no one except for my sister-in-law, Rachel. She and I were close, closer than I was to my own sister, to be honest. I made her swear not to tell anyone. She swore. And then she broke down crying. "Brooke, I didn't think she'd actually do it." "What are you talking about?" "It's your condoms," she whispered, eyes wide with guilt. "Kathy's been poking holes in them. She told me, she laughed about it. She said she had to give you another chance at a boy." I felt the room tilt. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't blink. I just sat there, holding my stomach, while everything clicked into place. The nights she insisted I nap while she helped around the house. The times she insisted on doing laundry. The way she always seemed to know when we were low on supplies. She didn't just cross a boundary. She demolished the wall. She stole my choice. And now, I'm carrying a child I didn't plan. That we didn't plan. Because my mother-in-law wanted to correct the gender of my firstborn. I'm scared. I'm livid. I want to scream in her face. But I also don't want anyone to know I'm pregnant yet, not while there's still a risk of losing it. Not before I've had time to decide what this pregnancy even means to me. Dylan's furious. She yanked him out of his mama's fog so hard it gave him emotional whiplash. He's sleeping beside me now, unaware that I've already made one decision. She will never hold either of my children again. And yet, I still don't know how to move forward. I didn't sleep that night. Dylan did. He always could, especially after a hard emotional day. But I lay there in the dark, listening to the soft inhale and exhale of our daughter through the baby monitor, my palm over my stomach like it could shield me from what was growing inside. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It was sabotage. A slow, intentional assault carried out by the one woman I had tried, desperately, to believe could love me. I kept flashing back to all the times she helped. The folded laundry. The reorganized drawers. The smug smile when I said we were using condoms until I could get birth control. I thought she was just overbearing. Turns out, she was planning a takeover. I told Dylan everything that Rachel had confessed. He didn't say a word for a long time. Then he stood up, walked out onto the porch, and stood in the cold without a shirt for what must have been half an hour. When he came back, his eyes were bloodshot. "She used you," he said, voice low. She used us. I'm not letting this go. He meant it. But we both knew words wouldn't change what she'd already done. And the law? Well, turns out, poking holes in someone's condoms without their knowledge isn't technically illegal in our state. Not if you're not a partner, not if it's not directly tied to sexual coercion. My OB looked like she wanted to cry when she told me that. She violated your bodily autonomy, she said softly. But proving it? That's the hard part. So, I made a decision. If the law won't help me, I'll help myself. I bought a new box of condoms, latex-free this time, told Kathy I'd suddenly developed a rash. I placed them in the same cabinet where she'd always find them. Then I set up a tiny hidden camera inside a baby wipe container, pointed right at that drawer. If she does it again, I'll have proof. Not just for court. For every member of the family who calls her traditional and loving and a little dramatic, sure, but her heart's in the right place. Let's see how right her heart looks on video. But while I planned and plotted, the pregnancy kept progressing. The nausea kicked in. The mood swings. The cravings. The bone-deep exhaustion that reminded me this wasn't just some revenge mission, it was my life. My body. My future. And that's when something strange happened. I started feeling distant. Not from Dylan. From the baby. I knew it wasn't fair. I knew this little one growing inside me hadn't done anything wrong. But every wave of nausea felt like a punishment. Every night I lay on the bathroom floor crying and retching, I saw Kathy's smug face, her voice echoing. You'll thank me later. I didn't feel like a mom. I felt like a pawn in someone else's sick game. And yet, every time Ivy giggled, every time she reached out with those chubby hands and grabbed my finger, I felt something crack. Something tender. Something I couldn't let Kathy touch again. That's when I realized something important. Kathy didn't just want a grandson. She wanted control. She wanted to rewrite our lives to fit her fantasy of legacy and power and the family name. Well, guess what? I'm changing it. Dylan and I decided that night, we're both changing our last names. Something new. Something ours. Something that burns her with every missed Christmas card and monogram towel. It's petty. It's perfect. The best part? She doesn't even know yet. But she will. Because every queen who plays God eventually learns what it feels like to be dethroned. When I was 16, my stepfather's brother, a man everyone called Uncle Ray, like he wasn't a stranger who gave me the creeps, pulled me aside at a family reunion. I remember I was wearing this oversized hoodie, hands shoved in the front pocket because I hated being there. He cornered me by the garage, lowered his voice, and told me how mature I was. How lucky my stepdad was to have a daughter who knew how to stay quiet and helpful. I didn't understand what he meant at first. But I nodded. Because that's what I'd been taught to do. Obey. Smile. Stay small. Let grown-ups decide the shape of my life. When I told my mom later, only hinted at it, not even the full story, she didn't even blink. She just said, "He's harmless. Don't make it a thing." So I didn't. But something shifted that day. I stopped talking about how I felt. I stopped trusting that adults knew best. And I started watching, learning how people hide their control inside of kindness, how they call it tradition, or concern, or helping. It's funny. I hadn't thought about that day in years. But now, as I sit here nearly 7 weeks pregnant with a baby I never got to choose, Kathy's voice echoing in my ears like a curse, all I can think about is that moment. Because once again, I'm supposed to be quiet. Once again, someone thinks they know what's best for me. But this time? I'm not nodding. This time, I'm the one making the rules. I started seeing a therapist. Quietly, privately. Dylan knows, and he supports it. He's even started looking for someone to talk to himself. We're not okay. Not yet. But we're trying to find a way to reclaim this pregnancy as ours, not hers. And maybe the most shocking twist of all? Kathy has no idea we know. We've been playing along. letting her drop off baked goods, send Pinterest boards for baby boy names, like she's the puppet master and we're just dangling on strings. But I'm not a puppet anymore. The condoms I left in the drawer? She checked them. I know because I watched the footage. She came in wearing gloves. She sniffed the wrappers, like some deranged fertility detective. Then she slid a sewing needle out of her purse, yes, her purse, and tested each one against the light before jabbing them, just once, near the base. I watched her do it. Every muscle in my body went cold. I hit record on the feed. Now I have what I need. Dylan and I spent that night putting together a digital folder. Every photo, every message, every time she made a snide comment about Ivy not being the real heir. The tampered condoms. The dates. The footage. We titled the folder Evidence for Attorney or Therapist. Just in case. Because we're not sure what we'll do yet, go full scorched earth. Send it to the family and let her legacy implode? Wait until the baby is born and make her beg for a visit she'll never get? We don't know. But we're done being silent. What I do know is this. I refuse to raise my children under the thumb of a woman who sees their gender as a disappointment, who thinks my uterus is hers to command. And if that means Kathy ends up sobbing on her driveway because we skipped her house on Christmas? So be it. Because this time, I'm not protecting the family. I'm protecting mine. 3 weeks after capturing the footage, I stood at our kitchen counter, 8.5 weeks pregnant, clutching a mug of lukewarm tea, when the group chat blew up. It started innocently. A picture from Kathy, a pink and blue knitted hat she made. Just in case. The caption? Manifesting our little prince. Grandma's waiting blue heart. It made me gag. Dylan saw it and froze. His face hardened. Then he turned to me and whispered, "Let's end this." That night, we composed the message. We didn't send the video, not yet. Just a written bomb, quiet and devastating. We know what you did. You poked holes in our protection while I was still recovering from childbirth. I am pregnant. Again. Against my will. Because of you. We hit send. Kathy left the chat within minutes. Then came the phone calls. I didn't answer. Then the texts. Please call me. You've misunderstood. You were meant to have him. God has a plan. I just helped it along. Helped it along? Like a puppet master yanking my reproductive health by the strings? I didn't reply. Dylan didn't either. We sat on the couch, holding each other, watching the storm hit from the eye of it. But it got worse. She showed up at our door. Yes, she actually drove across town uninvited and pounded on our porch like a woman possessed. I didn't open it, but I watched from the nursery window, hidden behind the curtain, as she stood there in the rain, sobbing. Clutching a tiny pair of blue baby booties. I didn't feel pity. I felt rage. She screamed my name once. Then twice. Then she said something that made me physically flinch. Don't take this from me, Brooke. Don't punish him. You don't get to shut me out. I made this happen. Dylan grabbed his phone and started filming. Quietly. Calmly. No threats. Just proof. And then he called the police. Kathy was escorted off the property 15 minutes later. The cop said, "Ma'am, you're being asked not to return. If you do, it'll be trespassing." She wailed like it was the end of the world. And maybe for her, it was. The next morning, we changed our locks. I called our OB, scheduled a new provider out of network, costly, but worth it, and transferred all my prenatal records. Kathy would no longer have access to anything. And then, just when we thought the storm was dying down, Rachel called. "She's trying to sue," she said, her voice shaking. "For visitation. For grandparent rights." My breath caught. "But the baby isn't even born yet," I said. "She doesn't care. She says she has proof she's essential to the child's development. She's already hired a lawyer." That's when I sent the video. Not to Kathy. To her attorney. Titled, "Attempted Reproductive Sabotage, Exhibit A. 10 seconds later, I sent the same clip to Dylan's extended family. No commentary. Just the video. Let them see. Let them choose. 3 days of silence followed. Then the calls began, not to me, but to her. And we watched, popcorn in hand, as her public image shattered. Her church group asked her to step down from her charity board. Her cousin wrote Dylan a DM saying, "I'm so sorry we didn't believe you before. We had no idea she was capable of this." Even her sister blocked her. And that's when the final blow landed. We received a handwritten letter. It reeked of desperation. She begged for forgiveness. Told us she'd just wanted a boy to carry the family name. That she was acting out of love. That it wasn't personal. Said she was losing sleep. Said she'd do anything to see her grandson again. But here's the thing. There is no grandson. Not yet. We haven't had the gender scan. And truthfully, I hope it's another girl. Just to watch her fall apart one more time. But even if it's a boy, he won't be hers. He'll be mine. Ours. And Kathy? She's out of the story now. The day of our 20-week ultrasound, I didn't cry when I saw the baby's heartbeat. I cried when the text said softly, "Looks like a girl." Dylan squeezed my hand. His eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't for what we'd lost. They were for what we'd protected. A daughter. Another girl. Kathy's greatest disappointment. My greatest revenge. I didn't even need to say it. Dylan whispered, "She'll never know her." Not 1 second. I used to think motherhood meant sacrifice. That it was all sleepless nights and learning to let go. But now I know it's also resistance. It's setting fire to every boundary someone else tried to draw around your body, your children, your future. Kathy mailed a gift 3 days after the gender reveal. Well, the one we shared with friends. A blue blanket embroidered with the name, Gregory. We never announced the name. She just assumed. As always. I dropped it straight in the trash. We didn't even correct her. Let her spin her fantasies like a spider in an empty web. Let her wait for a boy who's not coming. Let her mourn a legacy she tried to steal from my womb. Dylan and I quietly changed our last names that same week. Chose something neutral. Soft. Personal. Ivy's birth certificate was updated. So was the new baby's. The family name Kathy fought so hard to preserve? Gone. Erased. Like a smudge on a white dress. Her legal threats evaporated. No court would grant visitation to someone who sabotaged her daughter-in-law's birth control on camera. Her lawyer dropped her. The last message she sent Dylan said, "You'll regret this. One day, your kids will ask why I'm not around." Dylan wrote back one sentence. "I'll show them the video." We blocked her after that. And we meant it. She was at the grocery store when she saw Rachel a few weeks later. Tried to corner her in the frozen food aisle. "You think this is what she wanted?" Kathy whispered, frantic. "You think she's happy now? That baby will grow up without tradition, without knowing where she came from." "She'll know," Rachel interrupted. "Know what?" Kathy spat. "She'll know that her mother stood up and said no. That her father chose her over anyone who tried to control her life. That her grandmother didn't lose access, she burned it. Kathy hasn't been seen in public since. And I gave birth 6 weeks ago to a perfect, wild-eyed little girl named Aria. Ivy's baby sister. My body still aches in places. My chest is sore. I sleep in 2-hour bursts. But I've never felt more powerful. Every time I watch Ivy laugh, or Aria curl into my chest like a secret, I think about what Kathy wanted. She wanted control. She wanted bloodline. She wanted to matter. But in the end, she became nothing more than a cautionary tale we'll whisper to our girls when they ask why some people try to rewrite other people's stories. Because Kathy didn't just lose a grandson. She lost her place in the family altogether. Not with a bang. With silence.